speaking of the complete context, what was this conflict really ultimately about? Why did we stay there for so many, many years, long after bin Laden was dead, long after actually we defeated the Taliban early on, and then essentially our presence there allowed them to regrow and gain the strength that they have today? Well, as with so many things, follow the money. A fitting end to this, and we can throw this first tweet up on the screen. I think this is the perfect fitting end to this conflict, which according to an Afghan ambassador in Tajikistan, Ashraf Ghani, the last president of Afghanistan, escaped with bags full of 169 million US dollars as Kabul was falling.
Full of cash too, huh?
And
a nice
Saagar,
little haul.
what I have been saying is it's perfect because that's really what this conflict was all about. That's nothing compared to what the defense contractors, the bags of cash that they figuratively escaped this conflict with. The amount of money that was thrown around and completely squandered, most of which, by the way, ended up not in development, not in schools, not in building roads and bridges in Afghanistan, which a lot of people would rightly say also, hey, we kind of need some roads and bridges here too. But it didn't even go to that. It went 80 to 90%. Let's throw this next piece up there. According to foreign policy, 80 to 90% went to Washington defense contractors, banditry, they describe it as, and aid contractors. 80 to 90% of those trillions of dollars actually just returned to the U.S. economy.
Right.
Gigantic beltway grift to end all beltway grifts. The amount of money that people made helps you to understand why there is such a reaction to Biden leaving and why there is such unified, complete opposition to ever getting out of this country.
Oh, yeah. And here, our friend Li Fong, he found this great little anecdote from Saagar, which is one of my favorite agencies. More than $300 million a year went to ghost soldiers in the Afghan security forces who didn't exist or show up, while active duty soldiers across the country went unpaid for months.
Wow.
This is a phenomenon I tracked for so long whenever I was covering the Afghan war a lot back in 2015, 2016, and 2017, which is we were paying these fake salaries that these commanders would roll up, pay themselves in illicit cash, and then spirit it out of the country like Mr. Ghani to Dubai, Doha, wherever, open up these fancy bank accounts. These guys had penthouse apartments that you would not even believe. And one of my personal favorite stories on this, I remember watching, there was a whole Vice thing on it, even back in 2015. Let's put it up there. We spent $43 million on a gas station, not gas stations, gas station. 140 times more than what it should have cost. And what it is that you can see within this is that the outrageous cost outlays that happened here were all because of a snowballing level of failure where we were like, oh, we're going to build it in this particular place, even though nobody can necessarily agree why. And then we need to defend the people who are building it. And then we need to bring the guy. And then at the end of the day, nobody even used the damn thing.
Yeah.
After we were done. The same thing happened with the roads. We would build roads. The Taliban would then use those roads in order to take over an area. And then they would charge people in order to use the roads. This happens constantly.
That was actually part of why the Taliban was able to move so swiftly.
The ring roads, we built those.
They were able to take control of the roads. That happened sometime back in the winter that they got control of a lot of the main roads. And then basically city after city fell as quickly as they could get there because the instant they got there, they'd negotiate a surrender and they'd move on to the next one. So we helped to build those roads. At least that money actually went to something other than ghost soldiers.
The ghost soldiers.
That I do want to, something else I've been looking into as well is, you know, we kept hearing this number from Biden and from others of like, oh, we trained 300,000 Afghan army. No, we didn't.
It was more like 50.
We didn't.
Yeah.
The latest estimate I saw, I mean, you got all the ghost soldiers and just people who had like given up and abandoned ship already. The latest estimate I saw was that something like 1/6 of that 300,000 is a more accurate estimate in terms of who was actually in the fight at the end. So,
Nice.
Fake soldiers, We built some schools we did not build. Some schools were completely fake. The one thing that was revealed in the Afghanistan papers was that also the girls' enrollment in those schools was consistently inflated, and they were built at dramatically higher costs than what
Which we would pay per student, and it was all it's all
and even
fake.
when Europeans would come in and build schools in Afghanistan, they did it at a much, much lower cost than we were able to do. So this was all just a giant grift all the way around. This is another funny one from the Afghanistan papers. I almost kind of respect the game here with this one. One of the wealthiest people, we can throw this tweet up on the screen. I think this was from Richard Hanadia.
Yes.
One of the wealthiest people in Afghanistan was actually started out as an interpreter for the US and would sell them things for 100 times markup. And that's how he built his wealth. This is actually according to Michael Flynn, who was interviewed as part of, this came out in the Afghanistan papers. So everybody was on the take, but nobody more so, and this is the last element we have here, than all of the institutions of the military-industrial complex. Defense stocks during the Afghanistan war went through the roof. Lockheed Martin up 1,236%. Northrop Grumman, 1,196% return. Boeing, 975% return. General Dynamics, 625% return. And Raytheon, a mere 331% return over the course of the Afghan war. So when you ask yourself, why did we stay for all of these many long years when there was no defined mission, when there was the opposite of progress being made, where the Taliban was only getting stronger over the last decade or so of the last, let's say, 12, 13 years.
Oh, they got exponentially stronger.
Yeah. So why did we stay in spite of all of that? Why did we stay past the point when bin Laden was dead? Why did we do that?
That's a good question.
This is why, people. This is why. Follow the money. There were people who were making bank. Billions of dollars, making, Ashraf Ghani's 169 million bags of cash.
Oh yeah, that looks like nothing.
Looking like small potatoes compared to what a lot of the defense contractors here in this town were able to suck out of this engagement. So this is what it ultimately was really about. And all the lies that were told to you over all of those years were about keeping this world historic grift going.
That's right. And the worst part is American soldiers who were on the ground, the actual grunts, they saw all of this. They saw their commanders having to go out and give pallets of cash to these corrupt people so that we could build a well or whatever, and then the well would never get built, and then the cash would disappear, and then all of a sudden, now it's in the hands of some guy. And next thing you know, it all gets rolled up. And just so you know, this is everybody. The Taliban too. These guys became some of the most sophisticated drug dealers on the planet. They made $400 million just last year, which is the latest estimate. $400 million in a year. They have multiple cell phones. They got sophisticated bank accounts. All we did was prop up a kleptocracy on the one hand, where the entire government was basically focused on making sure they could steal as much from us as possible. And then the Taliban themselves became richer while they continued to sweep across the country.
Well, now they're also incredibly well-armed.
And now they're very well-armed. I will tell one story, though, that a U.S. Army colonel told me. I'm not going to reveal his name, but he told me this back several years, which is that one time he was sitting in Afghanistan, and they were trying to figure out why the Afghans kept running out of gas. They were like, what is happening? They're like, where are they driving? Because as far as they could tell, the Afghans weren't going hundreds of miles, and we were giving them the gas. Yeah, it turned out what they figured out is they kept requisitioning all of our gas because they were turning around and selling it on the black market. They never drove the vehicles that we supplied them, MRAPs and Humvees and all these other things, 1 mile. They never even drove it. They would just take the gas, sell it on the black market, back to Pakistan, and those commanders made millions of dollars. You take that and you multiply it by 1 billion, that's what we did in that country.
Nope, that's it. And if you don't think that the Taliban also very skillfully used that manifest corruption and evidence of abuse of the government that we were propping up as a propaganda victory, they very skillfully used that to, undermine support, and understandably so, for the corrupt set of unsavory characters and warlords with, child sex slaves and all of that, who we were backing. So anyway, that is a piece of the story of why the Taliban was able to come back and become so strong, because they used the evidence, very clear as day evidence of all of this corruption and all of this grift in their favor to say, hey, look, we're going to be different. We won't be like this. We're going to clean things up.
Right.
And so for some, that was an appealing prospect because our own legitimacy of the people that we were propping up was so dramatically undermined.
Yeah.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut, our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it. You get to ask us questions, all that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.